gentlemen, welcome back to start again.
No, we're not starting again. It's your fault you made an ass of it.
Well, see, the first time I ever typed in your guys' podcast, I spelled it as Postcast in YouTube by accident, and YouTube always, it's like it saves it, so every time I go to like type in it just comes up Postcast, and I'm just going, mate.
Well, fair enough. But
we're going with that.
we're back, and Div has joined us in the studio once more for the Talk Scottish Football. This is the first time we've actually been in the studio. Welcome, nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. You know, what you think of the new flat? Honestly, like it? You like
brilliant,
our
mate.
new surroundings?
Set up, sleeping class.
David came down for the Highlands, and he's gutted that we don't have a duck do.
I know, it's mental, man. I don't get
He's gutted we don't have a duck do.
I don't know what that is.
A duck do?
I don't know what that is. What is it?
I don't know. It's a Highland thing, mate.
Is it?
Do you know what a duck do is?
No. Can you tell me? Or you just gotta keep saying you don't know what it is? Do you know what it is?
I know what it is, aye.
Tell us what it is,
Doesn't matter. It's just fine. Doesn't matter. So basically, what you were meant to do was you were nearly there. You might go with that. Nearly got you. I was like, come on. One more time, you might go, what's a duck do? I go, quick.
You got me a beat with that.
I know I'm an absolute belter.
I was sitting down there on Saturday. I was like, what's a duck do?
I was hoping you'd get it. But anyway, nice to you join us. And David, of course, as always. So Talk Scottish Football is back. 2 podcasts in a very short period of time. If this goes up in time, it could be 2 days in a row. But it's massive this weekend. It is the return of
the Championship. No, past the next. What a game, man. Big game. Can't wait to talk about it.
League 1, League 2 and the Championship are back. The Old Firm.
Oh yeah, that's
the Derby. The biggest game in British football.
World football
takes part, world football, this weekend. And it's going to be very interesting, of course. The first Old Firm that has no fans. I don't know what the exact statistic is, but you're talking here maybe from wartime. A match which is going to be completely different from normal. Usually the fans are there, usually the fans make a massive difference. Rangers will probably come to Celtic Park feeling very confident that we'd have started the season. Celtic probably have a lot of critics to shut up. Of course, it's neck and neck up there. Could this set the tone for the season? We've got a lot to cover, but we may as well jump right in. And let's talk about the derby. That's the biggest thing on the agenda. So, David, start with you, son. How are you feeling about it this Saturday?
Confident. I think Rangers' form so far has been really, really good, but so Celtic's. You know, so it is going to be a close game. As you said, there's going to be no fans there, and I think it could go one or two ways there. I'm hoping it goes with the first one that I'm going to say, not obviously be Rangers, but I just mean the actual style of the game. I think it could either be like a goal fest, where they just go for it and it's all out attack, that kind of style, or because there's no fans there, it could be a wee bit more of a grab kind of affair. You know, I think Rangers have really been good in Europe when teams have came out, and even against Celtic in the past. But potentially, with no fans being there, Celtic could maybe drop 15-20 yards. They're not going to get criticism and try and hit Rangers on the counter. So I think it's fascinating how both will line up and how both will approach it tactically.
It's crazy how this no fans scenario could both... It's a big negative effect in the game, but perhaps both be a positive effect on both teams. I think Rangers have showed that without the pressure they can perform better. I think that was a big talking point when we were talking about empty stadiums. Maybe Rangers would play better with no fans. And Celtic, you know, when we go to Celtic Park and we play against Rangers and we play less entertaining football, fans don't like it. They're right on their back and it forces a change.
Same with Rangers,
so it's fascinating to think. So
I don't think it makes a difference.
Don't think it makes a difference? No.
Do you think the game? Do you think the spectacle?
Do you think the game will have the same intensity? Do you think the players will still be as...
The reason I think it does is because there's so many players on both sides who played in so many of these games. These boys know what it's about, man. And there'll be a real edge to that game. There's no doubt in my mind. I think it'll make a massive difference in terms of the spectacle. You know, I mean, one of the best things about that game is how mad the atmosphere is. But we all sat here last year, you know, when we were talking about old firms and stuff, and said that the cutting the allocations for away fans would make a big difference. It made zero difference over the course. I mean, really, when you look at the results, Rangers have won at Parkhead since Celtic have won at Ibrox. It hasn't made a great deal of difference. I think when there are so many in both sides, like I mean, Celtic, you look at Brown, McGregor, and that. I mean, throughout the Celtic team, they've all played in Old Firm. Same with Rangers team, they all know what this is about. And yeah, I just think that we've seen it a lot with games with no fans. You tend to get either.
So, are you an advocate for the cutting allocations down to 800? Do you think that's?
No.
I mean, that's a conversation itself.
I think in terms of the spectacle as a supporter, you prefer to watch it when there's a good atmosphere. But I still think this will be a fascinating game, and it'll be blood and thunder. I think there'll be people flying in for it because this season means too much.
Do you not think it'll be fascinating being able to hear everything the players are saying?
It depends if they use that
the
crowd noise.
I don't like the way. I prefer listening to it with no noise.
Same.
Why pretend? Like I don't get that.
A shot hits the side net and all that, and it goes, then there's
Just
nothing.
deal with it. But I think it'll be a fascinating game. I think maybe for the managers, you were talking there about how if Celtic want to sit a bit deeper at Parkhead, they couldn't do that because the team would push them up. It might be easier for managers to have a game plan because the team might not be influenced by a crowd like they often do. Like you can actually set your game plan out and say stick to it. Right? There's not be anyone moaning at you if you have to drop 5 yards deeper. It'll be fascinating. It'll be blood and thunder, and I don't think, in terms of what happens on the park, the lack of crowd will make too much difference, to be honest.
Right, well, first big talking point going into this game is, of course, Celtic missing 4 of their first team players.
Well, maybe 4.
We're talking definitely 3, potentially 4. Ryan Christie is out, Hatem Abdelhamed is out, Nir Beaton is out, and Odsonne Edouard is potentially out. It's crazy. This international break, first of all, I'll ask you, do you think the international break should have happened?
The Christie thing's a joke from me, by the way.
He's tested negative twice, and yet he can't.
Because they were playing the computer together.
I understand the track and trace thing with the general public and stuff, but see if you're getting tested regular, why let's entitle it? I don't get it.
I know, so I feel like he has now tested negative twice. Where is the
police station now, and they want to use the same name or something like that? It's ridiculous. Like I mean,
I think they were adhering to the guidelines. Obviously, what we're doing by staying a bit.
So we're not getting tested all the time, so it's different. Do you know what I mean? Like, the whole thing was Edward will play though, surely.
I think Edward will play. I think I heard on the radio that he's back on Friday. Saturday. I mean, we Morelos, he's back on Friday as well. We've been the last player back from.
Is he not back to Friday as well?
No, well, I think they've got a game. I think they've maybe got another game. Or he played last night, so I think it's just when he gets back or whatever, he gets back Friday. The only difference there is he's been playing games, he's been training. Edward's going to have needed to be isolating. He can obviously do the bike and all that. He can run about, but match sharpness is massive.
I actually think that this break will help Edward because he's looked.
I think he's needed this big time. Look, and one thing we've discussed, we've already filmed a video today, and we've already discussed the fact that Edouard and Morelos this season haven't been hitting the heights that perhaps we expected. I think both players are not playing like the players they are right now. They're looking shadows of themselves. But one thing that Odsonne Edouard needed was a rest. And a lot of people are saying he just doesn't look bothered. I honestly, and I'm not saying it's an optimistic thinker and someone who's like, oh, this, that, next thing. I do think that he just needed a rest. Because look, he picked up an injury, he came back, he was forced into playing 2 games, then he went on international duty, then he came back from international duty, played again, and people were expecting him to be, 100%?
It's one of those things. I think Morelos and Edward are similar in the fact that I think even when Edward's top form, sometimes he doesn't look arsed. See, when if he scores a goal, he's just kind of walking away like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, Charlie Nichols had a goal for no celebrating last season.
I remember that.
And Morelos is a similar one in that when everyone at the start of the season wasn't playing that well, oh, he's put the beef on, man, he's not in great shape. See, in November last year when he was banging around, he was still a big lad. Like, he wasn't exactly.
I know what you're saying there, but I do think he came back maybe a wee bit, and I think that's been a factor into how his performances and stuff like that went, along with the fact that Rangers have changed their style of play, gone through more with Ryan Kent and stuff like that. He's not as much of the main man, but you're right. He always has been, you know.
Yeah,
he's not been absolutely ripped to the bone, and he's still scored goals. So he has, but to go back to your point about Odsonne Edouard and his style and stuff, that's just French. That's just the way that the French are.
It's the same with Cham, it was the same with Dundee this year, it's the same with French players down in England as well.
I had some experience of doing some filming work with the Glasgow Rocks, and their lead coach is a French guy, and that's what he says. During training and all that, they'll be walking around and stuff, and they don't look like they're interested. You could say the same about them in a football aspect. You're like Pogba doing it at Man United. He looks like he's not interested. Odsonne Edouard, and then he just gets on the ball, boom, makes stuff happen. So no, I don't think that he's not interested. I agree with you. I think he has been nursing a quad injury or something along those lines.
There's no doubt he would have had some thoughts of the transfer speculation. It would have been a player in the bench.
Of course,
whether they wanted to go was irrelevant. All the talk can't be good for him. I actually think it's a great game for him. I think it's a better thing that it's an old firm he's coming back to than if it was like Ross County away. Because he has got.
This is a chance for him
to. He's going to be up for this game straight away. He's got something to come back for. He's going to have all this motivation. He's done well in Old Firm so far. You know, as I said to you, I think there's more chance of Edward playing than Rieti playing because you don't need to teach Odsonne Edouard how to play in Old Firm. You don't need to teach him how to play the way Neil Lennon wants him to play. He's so experienced in this fixture and in that team that, and he's played so many games, so the sharpness will still be there. You'd have thought it's an easy one for him to slot back in. Whereas Yeti's a relatively new signing coming back from an injury. That might be more of a gamble for me.
So right now, heading into the game, we've spoke very briefly on form. Form has been unbelievable on both sides. Both Celtic and Rangers haven't been beaten yet. This could be the first loss for any of the teams if someone wins the game. It's not a draw. It's going to be a draw. Watch this. It's got a 0-0 over it. Rangers.
When was the last 0-0 Old Firm? Was that?
It would have been
Honestly,
Celtic Park, March 2000, and it was the one after Clint Hill scored the following. No, it wasn't March then. It would have been.
Oh, that's a game Rangers were really dominant in the New Year and the chances and stuff like that.
Rangers were Rangers. They walked over us. They did that day. It was one of the performances. You're sitting there like, just end the game, man. Just get it on, done with. And then that was the year after the Clint Hill, wasn't it? That was the. I think it was. But Rangers going into this game have been. Some would say the more entertaining side. There has been that. I'm not saying this in a cheeky way towards Rangers, don't worry, but there's been that kind of myth going about that Celtic can't score goals when we have scored more goals in the league. Like, we have scored more. No discredit Rangers, but there's certainly been a more, I think, electrifying side to watch at the minute. Yeah, and that's going to be a credit to. Look, I think. I did want to kind of come out with a bold claim in the podcast, but then again, I don't want to sound foolish. I don't want to sound foolish. I don't want to give McKeevan's claim now. Gerrard, the credit to him is the fact that he's constantly developing this team to become better. Yes, they've still got to. I think they've got a long way to go before they can show that they are. We've got to wait to that. There's no point in us sitting saying now that they're going to challenge Celtic to the end, because we said it last year and then look what happened in January. But he is doing it constantly, game by game. I think showing that they can compete over a long-term basis.
I think the evidence so far has been really positive, with just the consistency that Rangers have shown so far, and I think game management has improved a hell of a lot for Rangers.
Coming as well now.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at some of the home games, I think we've won a few 2-0 and 3-0s and stuff. Just manage the game. I think Celtic did that through the years as well at home. I think there's been a lot of 1-0s, 2-0s and stuff.
That's been a lot of the difference between Celtic and Rangers. It's like Celtic's a team full of people now who have been there. You've got your McGregors, your Browns, your Forests who've been winning league title after league title after league title, cup after cup after cup. They know how to do it, they know how it's done. The big difference that Celtic and Rangers apart over the course of a 38 or 30 whatever game it was last season, 33 game season, has been the fact that Celtic can see out those dodgy games and Celtic can take a 1-0 and Rangers perhaps haven't been as good as it. They've crumbled under pressure. You look at Hamilton last season, they were 0-0 and Hamilton ended up going and scoring and winning the game.
Well, Celtic have one like that and Brown scores really late on and they nick a 3 points.
Aye. So
a lot of it is just mentality.
It is mentality. But going into this, Rangers have, as I was come back to the players, I know they'll be the entertaining side. Celtic, what they have lacked this season is real defensive stability. Shane Duffy's improved that. Shane Duffy has came in and made it better. But if you're looking at a Rangers side who are going to play anywhere near the levels they've hit this season, I'm worried for that back three at Celtic. I think that Ayer and whoever starts, it could be Julian, are going to be, I don't know, a bit nervy to watch. Now, this is the game where you feel like they should just turn up, be able to turn it on and deal with these scenarios. But, Ken, if we're going to talk about key players for a minute, it's going to be the key man for Rangers.
I think when he's not in great form for Rangers, he's always turned it on in these games. I can't really remember having a bad Old Firm
no.
Yeah. He's always, even games he hasn't scored, he's looked like Rangers' best player at times. That one they get beat when they were down at 10, he scored, didn't he? And he was.
That's why I think the argument of Rangers being better because there's no fans is a wee bit harsh. I think it's just the progression, because if you do look at big moments, players have showed up in big moments in the Old Firms. You get your Kens, you get your Hadji against Braga in Europe and such, when there's a lot of pressure on us. So I don't think that argument holds much basis. I think it's more to do with the coaching staff and just the progression of Rangers and that game management, like we already touched on. Aye. The experience as well, starting to really find their way playing. I think Rangers have got a beautiful balance at the moment. Aye. That's maybe something Celtic don't have, and that's why they've been winning ugly and they've not been very impressive, you could say.
Steve Gerrard knows his best team.
That's what I mean, whereas
that's what I mean,
whereas Lennon's, shifting and he's changing stuff and stuff.
It's such a headache at Celtic just now. I think there's still... Celtic undoubtedly, for me, still have a far better squad. Like, there is a better squad at Celtic. You're looking at a bench of Griffiths, Rogic, Ayeti, Kamala, Ismaila Soro, Turnbull. You're looking at a bench you're looking at a squad that is better than Rangers. Rangers and Celtic's 11 are up for debate with who's better and who, but the squad
that is something I think Rangers have improved vastly on again this season, if you want to talk about it. The way they
I don't think it's anywhere near Celtics though.
The gap's closing.
The gap's definitely closed there. We'll see at the end of the season, I guess.
I know, it's just
but so far the evidence shows that Rangers squad is got a lot of depth.
The difference of having Rufinete on the bench, or Eaton, or however they pronounce it, is you've got guys now who I mean, Defoe's obviously had a few injuries and stuff. He's still there or thereabouts. But I don't think, like, say, I don't know who Rangers are next week. But if they were to say drop Morelos and put Rufa in, I don't think many raised eyebrows. I think people are at a stage where he's got trust in that squad. Where if he needs to give Morelos a break, give him a break. Let him have a week off. Put Rufa in.
So
That's
you
something
think you would drop Morelos for this game?
No, not for this game. I
Not
mean,
necessarily.
Right.
This game
He has
plays,
dropped
like,
him
next
before.
week. If they were playing, like, I don't know who they're playing,
Right.
I think he'd be comfortable enough to drop him and say, we'll give him a rest.
I get you.
Because I don't think last season he had that.
No, totally. I mean, just look at the goalkeeping position. He's been very trustworthy, John McLaughlin. So he has.
Aye.
He's put him in
Yep.
on numerous occasions, whereas previously in
It's
years gone by,
big
I don't
trust
think
that as well,
that's
because
massive
he's
trust.
goalie,
It's
isn't
massive trust because you know what McGregor gives you, and he's put in McLaughlin even when McGregor has probably played. I think previous years he would have played. But he's strong, and now people that are coming in, I mean, look at Scotty Arfield, he wasn't starting, now he comes in, he knows his job. That's something that I'm loving so far with Rangers. Every player knows their job, they've got a philosophy, they've got a way of playing, and when it never really worked against Livingston, the coaching staff changed it, and now you might actually find Connor Golson putting some crosses at your box on Saturday, to be quite honest with you, because in the Livingston game, well, I don't know, we'll see, but in the Livingston game, tried to get it out to Tav and your Barisic and stuff like that, and they kind of just sat in and they eliminated that. In the following game at home, you found that they just pulled it wide. Connor Golson floated out of that position and put it into the box. So Rangers got a few different ways of playing at the moment. They're balanced, and they're just really coming into their own.
I think the full-back battle's going to be a really fascinating one in that.
Well, this is a big question. Will Celtic put their new boy out of left back? Do you think he's lovely to start the game? Do you think Taylor will start?
Yeah.
I think Neil Lennon
right.
But see, the thing is,
team before you chuck him in an Old Firm is a bit bizarre.
I think there's a lot
Celtic
of talk
have a habit
about.
of doing that.
I think there's a lot of talk about Greg Taylor being criticised and stuff like that, but I don't think Neil Lennon's is angry about his performances as the fans.
And you know
at
what?
this moment.
And
I think he trusts him to a certain extent.
I may be one of
so I
the
think
only
it's
Celtic fans that come out and say I understand the trust, because I don't think he does that much wrong. I think people, we talk about so much that people want Barkas to be Forster. I think everybody's just wanting Tierney to come back, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's no like.
Weirdly, I think this game suits Taylor though, because if you watch Celtic when they're playing, say, Hamilton or something, his main role then is to create. It's to make things happen in a forward area.
And oddly enough,
on Saturday that's not going to be the case.
Oddly enough, this might be the first ever time that Celtic use the 3-5 or the 5-3-2 against Rangers,
which will be really fascinating.
It'll be
That's
risky.
what I want to say about the fullbacks, because we know how much of a threat Tavernier and Barisic can be. I mean, they're arguably Rangers' two most creative players, you could argue that. So, I mean, for Neil Lennon, if you go with, say, Frimpong and Taylor, do you get to a position where you use them, push up high to try and keep... So your way at combat Tavernier and Barisic is to push them back the way. And with Rangers playing a 4, I just think it's a really interesting dynamic. I think that Kent will end up getting into... You want Kent in those pockets between sort of Brown and the midfield, playing on that sort of left centre-half, right centre-half. The whole system is just going to be fascinating to see how they deal with it. There's just so many individual battles all over the park that are absolutely fascinating, and I think the fullback one especially will be key. I think whoever wins that, if Frimpong and Taylor do a good job of stopping Barisic and Tavernier, I think Celtic will win the game. If I'm honest.
But then again, I do think that a lot of the old firms have been winning the midfield in the last so many years. So if you stop Rangers' these fullbacks, you can still win the game in the midfield. If you want to push the full-backs high and try and stop others from going forward, Rangers will push an extra man up and go like for like against your centre-halves, and then we've already seen defensively that they can be got at. I think there'll be goals in the game though, because I think Celtic can similarly do that to us. I think there's frailties in our defence, even though they've started so well. So it's fascinating, but there's counters to every question that you pose. There's a counter, so it's got to be.
As a wee question for you, do you think that?
I like this. You never really fire a question at me.
Why not? Let's just spice it up a little bit.
Nice.
Do you think that Lennon might be? I think a lot of Celtic fans will want him to play Ayeti and Edward, or they won't play two strikers. I think a lot of Celtic fans will want that.
Do you
think he'll go with Christie? Just because of what we said about...
I can't go with Christie. Christie's out. So your question's now voided.
That's why you don't ask the questions, isn't it?
So this is...
Fucking stick to the day job, man. Do you think he'll go with... who else can play there?
Look, I think that Neil Lennon is going to start the game.
I think... Just to give him that protection in midfield.
No. I think the people who are going to start the game on Saturday, right now, at this point, genuinely... will be Klimala and Ayeti.
Whoa, that's a big shout.
I think they'll start the game.
I think Ayeti
much more chance of Griffiths starting for me.
You're joking, really?
I do.
You think Griffiths will start?
I think
there's more chance of him starting than Klimala starting.
No.
I do.
I genuinely agree with that. I don't know if it's through merit though, because Klimala for me is went under in the headlines so far. He's came on, he's done a job.
Griffiths has played 20 minutes
Yeah.
of competitive football this
Talk
season.
about his experience though in that game especially, and also like if you're
I
not going
think
to play anyone,
I think Neil Lennon will
if you're Stephen Gerrard,
recognise.
you're
I think Neil Lennon will
happily
recognise
keeping
as much as I think Lennon will recognise as much as me myself can recognise right now. You would rather Lee Griffiths coming off the bench in an Old Firm than you would Klimala.
Well, not if you need to stretch the game. Like you bring Kamala's pace off.
He has been good coming off the
Very
bench
good
though,
off the
that
bench.
Klimala.
I would be shocked if he starts Griffiths and Saturday.
So before I
Stunned.
made an ask of Christie not playing,
Stunned.
the reason I was thinking that is, do you trust your midfield 3 up against Rangers midfield 3 in terms of what you've seen in Old Firms recently?
Well,
So
in
you've
terms
got
of Old
Brown,
Firms,
McGregor and
in
Sham
terms
against
of-
Davis, Jack, and
Probably off.
Ah.
In terms of Old Firms recently, no, but.
So
They've
that's why I
got to
think
learn
they've
from
done
that.
something with a bit
They've
more
got to
protection.
learn from that. They've got to move forward. And look, ultimately, we know, no offence, Div, Celtic's midfield 3 is better on paper than Rangers. But in these Old Firm games,
don't need to go with the claims,
On-
Ryan. Let's just
on-
talk about the past. Like he's
on
put the
paper,
question forward.
it is a better
How do
midfield
Celtic then? Let's say, how do they learn? Can you answer that question?
no,
How
it's,
do
just,
they learn?
it's just through work, training, and everything else. You've just got on the day.
But what did they actually do?
The mentality's got to be there on the day to pick up on what the mistakes were the last time. Look, at Ibrox last season when we won 2-0, Gerrard's philosophy was, thrown about social media. It was about controlling the middle of the park. They couldn't do it.
Well, listen, hold on. The last
and
five
we
Old
done it
Firm
that
games,
game.
The last 5 Old Firm games, Rangers have dominated.
Yes,
the
of course.
4 of them.
But yes, that's
I'm
what I'm
just
saying.
fascinated to know how Celtic
I've-
change. No, they can.
They haven't changed.
They, of course, Ryan, they
That's-
can change. But I just
I
want
think
to know
this
from
is.
your point of view
I
how
think
they do.
this game coming on Saturday will be a completely different midfield from what we've seen in the past Old Firms. It's a completely different system we're going in with. The system is entirely different, and not just in the middle of the park, all over from what we've played against Rangers before. A 4-2-3-1 completely different. That is first of all where the change comes in the middle of the park, in the system alone. And then after that, you've just got to rely on the mindset of the day. Look, we have been utterly embarrassing in the middle of the park in the last few Old Firms. Now, I'm not going to deny that. There's no denying. On the day, Ryan, Jack, whoever else plays in the middle, Davis, all the rest of them, Arfield, they have been better.
Yeah,
And they have been stepping up to show that they can be better than the Celtic midfield. Look,
Which takes us back to your point then. For me, Celtic would probably be best suited trying to play down the wings than through the midfield.
Yeah.
and I think we'll get that.
Do
better
your
in
battles
five.
in the
I
midfield,
think-
but try and give down the wings.
That's why I
Because
think
if it
the shape
starts
will suit
becoming a midfield battle
Ah.
here, the same thing could happen.
That's why I think the shape will suit Celtic. It's a good point because I think there was a few occasions last season where Lennon wanted to play 3-5-2 and just couldn't through injuries or whatever personnel. The 4-2-3-1 hasn't worked for Celtic and Old Firms at all. It just
Well,
hasn't. Well,
not
not
at all.
times.
I
I mean, if you look at over the last 5 games, it's not worked. I mean, the one they won.
won a cup final.
Rangers changed their full style that
Hold on
day.
a minute here, though. I mean, they absolutely Rangers battered Celtic that day.
Who
Battered them.
walked away the winner?
Oh well, I mean that's just. I think that's a really simplistic argument.
Well, it is, yes, but it's just to bring a bit more wider context to it. all.
Yeah, I mean that game proved what we've known for a while now is that Rangers on their day are can be just as good.
Like that's where ultimately what has set the two teams apart in the last 5 Old Firms is on the day Rangers have treated it
And over the course
far
of the
more of
season,
occasion.
Celtic
What we
have
have,
had
we've
a
went
mentality.
in lackadaisical, we've went in underestimating. I
I
think.
don't think that's fair on
And
Rangers either.
It's not. I think no. Look, but there's props. Hats off right now to Rangers for improving the way they have. Because Rangers over the past year and a bit have been great. Apart from maybe January onwards last year, Rangers have been just as good as Celtic. In areas of the park, they have been matching up. Yes, Celtic are still the better team, and that goes to show by winning league titles and winning cups, but Rangers have been better. But on the day, there has been something on the park with Celtic's mindset which hasn't been there. And I'm not going to just say Rangers have been winning because we haven't turned up. Of course, Rangers have turned up. You've got to give them the credit for that. But
Tactically been very good.
tactically very well set up. But we haven't been there on the day, and that is incredibly frustrating.
Due
And
to
maybe,
tactics.
maybe that is because Rangers have got in the heads of Celtic on the park. Maybe they've went out and played a way we never expected. But that's what we need to sharpen up on Saturday. And I think with this new system, it's a fantastic way to test out Rangers' mentality. I think it's a good way to
I
to
just think
stretch them.
one of the biggest annoyances it'll probably be for you is that the system is good and stuff like that, but you've probably not got the personnel up to speed yet that you would want. Because realistically, you probably want Griffiths and Edward, yeah?
He's still not his best team. That's bizarre.
That's what I mean,
He still doesn't have a clue
that
his
as
best
well.
team.
I think,
You've kind of got your system there that works for you for January onwards, but
You
you've
think-
not
you
got your
think-
players in yet.
I think Lennon knows his best team.
But see,
but
I
he's
think
just.
Neil Lennon thinks his best
I
team
don't know what
is
he's on about
Griffiths
when
and
he's playing
Edouard.
them. When
Whereas
they're
I
that.
think you think it's Ayeti and Edward. I think for Lennon it's Griffiths and Edward.
Really?
I do.
think
I
so.
absolutely do. If you like, they were so good last season.
I
They
agree.
were unbelievable when they partnered up top. They changed Celtic's season.
But
Everyone
then,
talks
if
about
he,
Rangers
but then
falling apart.
if he thought that, why would he go out and spend £5 million when he has
Because you
Kamara
can't
in?
trust Griffiths.
So is that so if he can't trust Griffiths, why is he part of the best
Because
11?
if he's if everyone's fully fit and firing, Griffiths for me goes in that team ahead of Ayeti. The reason he's had to go and buy someone is because he knows fine well that Griffiths isn't going to play 38 games. He might play 10.
But then he spent £3 million on Kamara as well.
Well, yeah, but it's show. He
I think
£3
signing
is
proved that
strikers.
he wasn't fully convinced on Klamala, but I think Klamala's went away, he's worked hard and he's came back and he's done alright.
Ayeti, if he didn't sign Ayeti, and he could not have gone into the season with Griffiths being one of his main men, because he knows that he just can't.
No, that's probably why.
Whereas, but I think on his day, if he's fully fit and firing, I think he gets in that team, because Lennon trusts the two of them as a front two when they play together, that they'll score goals. And I think last season we talked about Rangers' capitulation post Christmas. I don't think Celtic get enough credit for how well they started playing after that. I think when Griffiths came into that team, they were really, really good.
He changed it, he took pressure off Edward, and that's
It's
when
and it made
Edward was
Edouard
able to
play
drop
better.
in and play a lot better.
How much of an impact can Griffiths make in Saturday, do you think? For a man who's
Depends
missed...
what Lennon thinks.
At 100% he can make an impact, but I know where you're coming from in terms of he's played 20 minutes in the last
I still
9
think
months.
I don't see how he starts the game in
If
Saturday.
it's 1-0 Rangers with 5 to play, I'd rather Griffiths coming on than Kilmarnock.
Exactly. So
I
why would
personally
he start
think
the game?
Ayeti will start with Edward.
See, I'm playing. Look, if Edouard is 100% available to start the
He
game,
absolutely plays.
he plays. He starts.
If he's 50% available, he will.
I think he plays.
Right
Look at
now, for me, it's Kamara and
Look at
Ayeti.
that League Cup final last year. He didn't start him when he was maybe at 70%, and that was a mistake. It proved that straight away. Had to bring one at half time. So I don't think he'll.
But then again, right, see, it's very well in hindsight saying that, right? That's good, fair enough. But what if we did start Edouard that day? What if we started a 70% Edouard half an hour into the game? He's like, nah. He's just, you know, it's all very well saying in hindsight. A couple of things to touch on the Old Firm before we move on, because we're already talking, I think, about half an hour nearly. There's, coming number one, very quickly. Do you think that... Was that there?
That was a door going.
Do you think Morelos will break his duct? Do you think he'll get a goal?
Do you know what? Of course he can, because he's created so many chances.
He can, but will he?
I think he can, of course.
No. I know he can, but will he do it?
Right, okay then, I'll say aye.
Okay, I like that bold prediction.
Nice.
I'll go for it. I'll say that he can break his duct. And in the previous Old Firm games, he's been in fine form going into them. And then he's played well, he's just not scored the goals. This one, he's not in fine form, so maybe this is a game where the pressure's off a wee bit and he gets his chance. And
Fair
he
enough.
scores. I mean, he's had plenty of chances
I think
to score, but you know what I mean.
Well, they're scoring. I think
The cup final being the prime example of that.
Aye.
And another day he's scoring fucking 4 or 5.
It's not
no.
even just that. I mean, he'll create space for Kent and that bomb forward. So
I think that's one of the main differences Celtic fans will realise from this. Rangers won't be primarily playing through
It's
Alfredo
another thing,
Morelos.
I don't think it really matters if he scores or not, because I still think Rangers have got enough.
When he's getting the chances,
Team.
Davy Boy, he should be scoring.
He should be, but
But if
what
he's
I'm saying
creating
is,
and stuff like that,
if,
then
I think if Morelos doesn't score this weekend, I don't necessarily think that means Rangers don't win. I don't think that is what I'm saying to you. I think that
well, we've seen in the past.
exactly. He doesn't, you know, he can add to the team positively without scoring. I think we've seen it on another occasion.
That's why I think it'll be fascinating. If Celtic can improve in the midfield and Rangers can improve with their finishing, this could be a mental
Yeah,
game.
it's gonna be a match.
I think that Morelos is hopeless. I think that's it, joking. Anyway, finally, one last thing. Does the old phrase of matters come the end of the season actually matter?
Makes zero difference.
Zero difference, do you think
It
it makes
made no
zero
difference
difference?
last year.
Last year, we all thought that these games would decide the title. It was going to be the Old Firm.
See, after Celtic won that first Old Firm game last season, Rangers went on a really good run and Celtic dropped off.
Yep,
Then
and
Rangers
then-
won an Old
then
Firm game, Rangers dropped off,
off.
Celtic won another.
I think these games are not at the point yet where they're going to matter come title.
Yeah, I've heard some people say,
I really
it's a
don't.
massive season, the first one, it sets the tone. If Celtic or Rangers, whoever gets beat at the weekend, that does not mean they're out of the title race at
No.
all.
So far this season, if you go off the evidence, you would say the Old Firms are going to have a
That's so
huge
far.
impact.
That's- I
So
know,
far,
I
but
suppose
again, it's early
such
days.
a long way to go.
It's
And just
a
in
long
case,
way to
and
go.
just in case the camera cut when I was saying my point, what I was saying was whoever wins the title, either way, Celtic or Rangers, will be bang on 6 points to win the league. So that does it. Let's very quickly predict what's going to happen then, maybe as well, because it wouldn't.
Right, Dave, you're the guest.
You're the guest, so on you go. You go first.
I want scoreline and goal scorers.
That's fine. This is one that I'm hoping for more so because I think, as I said, it could go one or two ways. You know, it could be a kind of stalemate or else it could go mental. So for that reason, I'm going to go Celtic 2, Rangers 4.
Four.
Mental. Mate, I
Pedro
would
Mendes
love.
number.
I would absolutely love a game like that. Goals galore, mate. I mean, it wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be good for the ticker, Ryan.
No, it would not.
But it'd be tremendous. I mean,
Thought you were gonna go
a more educated bet probably be 2-1
What do you
Rangers.
think?
Bet 4-2.
Oh, let them go.
Do you want goal scorers and stuff?
Yeah, well, goal scorers.
Right, okay.
Both sides.
See if you see Morelos hat trick of those earlier.
I think in a 4-2 game, Morelos get a goal.
Right, okay.
Ryan Kent likes a goal.
It's lucky it's
Oh,
not
yes.
going to be 4-2.
Oh, aye. Two goal.
You know, I'll give Morelos 2 goals actually in this game. I'll give Ryan Kent a goal and I'll give Tav a goal as well.
Right. Spot.
Who's scoring for Celtic?
For Celtic, I think Ayeti.
Both of
The
them.
double.
I think he'll score 1. And this is mental, mate. I'm put a bet on this. If this comes in, I'm a millionaire.
No, that's you.
But that's what I mean. That it could be. It could be 2-1, mate. It could be anything, right? But anyway, the last goal scorer will be Greg Taylor.
Consolation.
Greg Taylor with a tap in, mate.
What are you thinking?
I think it's going to be tighter than 4-2. I don't know if it's going to be as many as 6 goals in the game.
That'd be good though.
It'd be good. No, that way though.
But
Not
it'd be class.
4-2 years, but it would be class watching. I'm going to go for 2-0 Celtic. No, I can't say Rangers aren't going to score, man. Because I think they will. I think they will score. 2-1. 2-1. We'll give us a goal. Right, I think it's going to be 2-1. I think it's going to be a lot tighter. I think that I'm going to go for Shane Duffy to get a goal. And I'm going to go for Patrick Klimala to get a goal. It's going to be my 2 goal scorers. And for Rangers, I'm going to go for a Taylor own goal.
So Taylor's on the score sheet for both of us, basically.
I think it's Celtic 2, Rangers 2.
2-0.
It's a good shout, I know. It'd be fair.
Really? I'm they sit there being all right, so.
I think Rangers goal scorers will be Barisic and Arfield, and I think it will be Edouard and McGregor.
You just know you've made a tit yourself on my channel and you want to keep people happy here.
Oh, I don't know, mate. I gave you Frimpong.
Yeah, fair enough.
You didn't even give you Frimpong.
Right, okay, that's the old fun cover. That's
We talk about some real football now.
Well, if you let me go on, I was actually going to talk about the Premiership games heading on around the league. Of course, we've got very little time compared to what we normally would after a bumper game coming up. So
it's annoying because there's usually talking points in here.
Yep, there's a lot of good games. So we'll start off with what they used to call the new firm. Dundee United, Aberdeen, an awful part, awful part. Dundee United, Mickey Mellon, a bit of a slump. Peter He'd even beaten them, for God's sake.
With Cy Ferry at centre half.
I know, yeah, apparently had a performance and a half, man.
Apparently had nothing today.
Aberdeen, on the other hand, have been flying recently. Like, they have turned things around big time after. So we've talked about it so many times. Look, for me, there's only one way that game goes, and that's Aberdeen walking away with 3 points. I don't think Dundee United have a chance against them. The way Aberdeen playing on the new, we talked a lot about mentality with Celtic and Rangers and who's got the mentality on the day. Aberdeen's players and McInnes right now, I think, have got this mentality of just go out, get the job done, whatever way we have to, and they are not willing to sacrifice any points.
Yeah, but mate, if they had that,
I know they got beat 3-0 off Motherwell. These things happen. It comes every now and then. They capitulate.
That's why they play for Aberdeen.
Yep, they're not top class players. Ultimately, Aberdeen are never going to go and win 38 games. So you know what I'm saying. But right now, I don't see any way Dundee United turn things around against Aberdeen. I think they've got to wait a bit.
It'll be a really interesting game. It's another one that I watched on TV maybe on Sunday, but nice we watched that. If
Premier
Dundee
League's
United,
priority.
Dundee United really have aspirations of being an established top 6 side this season, or pushing maybe for. Because I think a lot of their fans are thinking they should be pushing up near top 4. Like they should.
United?
Yeah, I think with a club, I think a lot of fans think they should be able to Shankland in that. If they have real aspirations of getting near the top half and establish themselves in there, these are the kind of games they need to put in a marker.
I don't think there's. I'm not saying
because
they can't perform in these games.
If they play against Celtic at Tannadice, they'll get something from that game.
Aye, but I don't see it happen.
And they've put in that performance without Shankland as well, so they're definitely capable. I think you're right, Aberdeen have been very, very good recently, but they have that same old Aberdeen thing where they just have hiccups every now and then. I fancy United to edge that.
I tell you who's been good, your boy Ross McCrory.
Ross McCrory's came in there and
yeah.
I think he's even made Lewis Ferguson step up his game as well.
Yep.
He's going to a right game, both of them together are looking brilliant. Ross McCrory obviously been promoted to the Scotland squad. I think that's positive because
I hope he'll play
there's been so many times in there where you could have maybe just went into the under-21s and promoted a player rather than bring in an old face. So I think that's good. I think they'll come back with a spring in their step. And I agree with you, Ryan. I think that Aberdeen will win this game. I think Dundee United give too much opportunities up and they don't have enough going forward. They don't have enough creativity. They've got the Shanks, but he's going to feed no scraps most of the time, to be quite honest. So I'm going 2-0 to Aberdeen.
In the last few weeks, yeah, but at the start of the season I watched them a few times. Even when they went to Ibrox, there are a few chances. Like they have got players in there, like the boy Harks in midfield, Nicky Clark can create chances. You know, Peter Pollock's there as well. I mean, I think they've got. And it's one of those. You give Shankland a couple of chances, he's bound to score one, you know, or one or two. So, yeah, I just fancy United to bounce back from that poor form. But on to Ross McCrory quickly on him. Where do you think his best position is? For me, he's a DM. He's holding midfielder for me.
I agree with you, mate. I think he's a DM. I think what held him back at Rangers was his distribution on the ball. I used to always say, put him in there, get him to win the ball, and then pass it to somebody that's good.
Aye.
I think that's what you need to play him as. And then maybe when he's playing with Lewis Ferguson, he can do a wee bit more of the playing.
Yeah.
But for me, he's a pure dog. A pure dog.
A pure dog. He is a bit unclear.
Fit as a fiddle.
He's a dog, mate. He's a dog. You know, he's played right back. He's played centre half. But for me, he's a CDM.
Yeah,
I think on his day, he's untouchable in that CDM role, winning the ball.
Moving on from that, Ross County taking on Hibs up in Dingwall. Same story for me here. Yep, Hibs. I think Camden, you know you're mega horny when you talk about him, man.
You've no idea, mate.
Jeez,
you have no idea.
What the hell?
It must be contagious then, because I'm right into Nisbet.
I'm a wee bit of Nisbet fever. It'll be good when he's up in the ball. I mean, it's not good for you, but nice when he's up there with Super John. Look, Hibs, I easily take this. There's not much of a conversation to have here, I don't think, you know, in terms of... Look, Ross County have looked really good at points this year, but Hibs...
Yeah, Dave De Gea's
flying, man. Hibs are
flying.
flying.
They are flying, and I think that, you know, we've said a lot about Hibs. The reason that I think I changed my pick for third to Aberdeen, mainly because of their ability to consistently be thereabouts and string results together, whereas still think Hibs can be a bit suspect defensively, although their defensive record is actually quite good. Even Ryan Porteous, for me, has got a mistake in him. You know, so
no, of course. We've seen that against Hamilton.
Yeah, so I mean, I fancy Hibs. I think Hibs have got too much firepower for Ross County, who have been pretty poor defensively this season. So I think they'll. I think we're raving about Nisbet, but Doyle just got a goal, and Boyle's got a goal in him. You know, so there's plenty of options there for Hibs. I think they'll win that. But the last three games on Saturday are all massive for down the other end of the table. You look at, I mean, Aki St Johnstone, man, what a massive game that is for both sides.
Yep.
I mean, if Brian Rice gets another defeat there, I know he won against Ayr last week. You know, the pressure really mounting on him and Hamilton. Yeah, we know they're always going to be there or thereabouts, but there seems to be a real negativity at Hamilton just now. Like the fans won't rid of Brian Rice.
We were talking about this on the podcast yesterday. If you were to take a guess at what would be on Brian Rice's Facebook feed, what would you say? Like, what can you just picture him?
Because we were talking about how I said on Saturday, he said that he doesn't go on the internet and stuff. Like, do you think he's one of them mad like uncles you see sharing like stuff about like refugees on Facebook and stuff?
No, do you know what I think he'll be like? I think he's going to be sharing like the conspiracies about 5G, COVID. I think Big Chipper's a flat earther.
You know who I saw I was on Twitter, right? You remember Craig Dargo?
That's you banned him.
Yeah.
If you go on Craig Dargo's Twitter, on his cover art thing on Twitter, it's like notified G and all that stuff.
Oh
my
God. That's you banned for the foys now. No, you're not getting back here.
I get banned for calling it that.
Hibs, Ross County,
I think it'll be one each.
Yeah, one each.
Really? You don't think Hibs will win that game?
We moved on to that game when you were talking about. We were on
I think.
Aki St Johnstone, alright.
They've got absolute goals in them, but Big Chipper's team get 2 against them. You're right. They've got mistakes in them, and they're starting to concede now. So
but
I'll go 1-0.
I mean, Cal Davidson as well. I've talked about him.
I think Aki's will win it.
You think Aki?
I think Aki's will take it. I really do.
I agree.
Look, St Johnstone are going to have that typical. I think
St Johnstone in big trouble.
I think St Johnstone are
If
going
you
to
don't score goals, man. If you don't score goals,
see when somebody plays really well against Celtic, like one of these lesser teams, they fall apart the next game. They don't look good. I think St Johnstone are going to get beat. They looked really good against Celtic. You know, they were this from taking a point. This
1-0. Oddifin.
I really like. He's a player, man. I really like Cal Davidson, but he's having a really tough start. But it's one of those jobs though, when you take that on from Tottenham after having such success.
Yep.
You know, it's a point in Charles.
It's like
almost forced unless you
like
overachieve, then you're gonna have question marks.
I think he's been in there and he's trying to make them hard to beat to begin with. It's a trade they've already maybe hit. Maybe he wasn't able to get the players in that he wanted, because I know he wanted to go in there and kind of change the style.
He's not that type of coach.
Do you know what I mean?
He's more of a sort of attacking coach.
But so far they've not shown that. So they must have went in there trying.
And now I think he's realised that's working, so we need to go back to what St Johnstone are good at, which I think will cause some issues, because if you're a coach and you try to set up a team a way that you don't necessarily believe in, I think you're buggered right from the start, because you know he's definitely the type. He was at Dunfermline for a bit as well, so the coaching staff, and the spell he was there, they were really good. Like, and I was like, he's down to him, man. He's making the difference. But yeah, I think they're a bit of trouble. But I also think this is the year Aki's go down for me. So I think
you've stuck by that. St Johnstone could go down, man. Really good. And then finally, the last game in the Premiership this weekend, St Mirren and was there 2 more? Mate, you're script. Oh, sorry, Livy and Kelly, aye. Well, do you know what would have really helped if you'd done Livy and Kelly before what you had on the script?
You were paying attention, but we'll leave it there.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm
St
trying to
Mirren
say
versus Motherwell, mate. Div. St Mirren are honking just now.
Well, let me tell you this.
Alright, Div.
Alright, Div, man.
Let me tell you this very quickly. If Motherwell win this weekend, Goodwin's gone.
Oh, don't be so ridiculous.
He's gone.
I mean, he's been back. He's been back financially. He's brought in players.
You'll get it right.
I think he's a good coach.
I
I think
him.
it would be a mistake to get rid of him, but so far, you
Look,
know,
he's
their
already
chairman
named-
was
he's
out
already
saying they
named
wanted top six this season. They've
And
spent
the
money.
first
They've
3-4
backed
games, they
him.
didn't look like wild playing. They started well.
They did start well, but now
Maybe-
they look honky.
Maybe I'm being harsh by saying if they get beat, but if they get embarrassed, he's gone.
I think it.
He's already had a,
potentially
he's already had
embarrassed,
a,
but-
he's already had a meeting with the board, man.
I look at St Mirren and I'm like, what is their plan going forward? Like, what do they want to do? Because they've got Obika there, who is coming out. Lee Owen came in as well, which looks a bizarre signing because.
Mate, he got one goal last season.
I also
what he
thought
started
that
as a striker.
Jim Goodwin strikes me as a kind of guy who, a young coach who wants to try and play a little bit of football. He's bringing Lee Owen if you're trying to play some football.
No, you don't. No,
And
not
if you
at
do
all.
strikers are Obika and Elwin, maybe he's going to have to commit and go, you know what, let's just try and play ugly. Let's just go. I mean, because there are a handful of those two, but. He's got on the left wing.
I really like
control the
I
ball.
like Goodwin, and I think he can come right. I think he can come well over time. But right now, the tactical inconsistencies over the park for St Mirren. Are you looking into the camera as if I'm saying something ridiculous there? The tactical inconsistencies there. I am offended. Do you want you to take it away?
No, I was just laughing at something you said.
I think the tactical inconsistencies will come back to bite him. I think there's been too many players playing all over the place, and
Yeah, you talk
things
about
gone wrong.
managers who have the right, who haven't had things click this season.
Neil
Ian
Lennon.
Robinson's another one. Another one I haven't exactly set the head of the league.
Nah, I'm not. No.
You know, I
The
think
difference is with Robinson, he's backed by fans, board, everybody.
since losing Turnbull, I think I said at the time it would be the biggest blessing to their season was losing David Turnbull because
I agree.
they didn't know how to play with him because he's such a creative player, wants the ball at feet, he makes things happen, but they have to sacrifice the rest of what they did really well last season without him. And I think you have seen signs since they sold him that they're starting to get that mojo back a little bit. The result at Aberdeen was obviously huge. Yeah, I mean, St Mirren, I think it's getting. I don't think he'll go if he gets beat, but I think it's not far away from must-win territory for Goodwin. He needs to get some points on the board.
I think they might get a goal in this game, but I think Motherwell will get two.
I think Motherwell will take it. I think Motherwell will win 3-0.
3-0. That would be a hammering.
I think that could get Goodwin the chop.
Yeah, your boy Conor McCarthy.
No far, nah, he's no, I'm really.
Since he's not bigging him up, that's what he's just.
No, that's it. I've not spoken about him in a while. So that's the Premiership. Oh no, it's not. Livy and Kelly, the bus driver, a man who's forging his way there a bit. He's gradually picking up bits and bobs.
Kelly who.
Kelly in form, man.
What I was doing last night.
No, I never heard about it.
I'll cover this because I said it to you last night. It's annoying me. I was watching the game in here. Like,
Here we go.
the film were amazing, smashed them, not a problem. Piece of cake, we're going up and all the rest of it. But you know, everyone was like, "Oh, this young Kelly team. Dunfermline should be easily beating this young Kelly team." They're an older average age than our team did last night.
There you go.
Fucking bizarre, man.
Is this what it's like when I'm talking about Celtic?
No, because you talk about Celtic a lot more than I talk about Dunfermline. Yeah, but Kelly, they obviously relying on getting loads of players back. They want the game pushed back to Sunday or Monday, I think, because I think the boys are getting back training Thursday, Friday after being out for God knows how long they've been out for. I'm interested one. Kelly had started finding a little bit of form as well after a tough start.
And now they've found themselves depleted.
Yeah, so it's a tough one. Livy, it doesn't strike me as the sort of game you'd want to watch though.
No.
To be honest.
Nah, that's the stinker of the weekend,
Yeah, maybe, potentially.
I think it is.
Well, I think Livy will win it though.
Yeah,
I think the circumstances, I think that just Kelly will.
It's one of the games that's just got a Kelly win rate on it for me. I don't know why. I just think that Livy should be taking the points here, and it's going to be one of the ones we're looking back and they're going, fuck me, why did we realise that?
This weekend,
Really?
yeah, I think
I mean, if the Pars could do it, then.
we'll get them in.
Yeah.
There you go.
Anyway, anyone else buzzing that the lower leagues are backers? Just me.
For my Cutums, eh?
So the Coopers, aye.
I like to put them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You buzzing?
Alright, aye.
Aye.
Doing good,
Tell
good.
you what though, game of the weekend out with.
What a start! What a start on Friday night.
Yeah, exactly. Out with the
mate,
Old Firm.
what a
Hearts
start.
Dundee at Tynecastle Friday night.
Mate, that's gonna. Mate, if there was fans there, that'd be unreal.
I mean, they will be scraps in the boardroom with that Dundee board.
Dundee, I'd have been heading up with the Dundee
Jesus,
CSC, man. I'd have been up
definitely.
there. Oh, brilliant.
That's the other thing, right? And it's not just that. Like I know I was not talking about the past as much as possible, but Dunfermline and Inverness, they were at loggerheads during all this as well. Like our chairman and Ross, their chairman, were fighting over Saints and all the rest of it. So in terms of grudge matches this weekend, it's fascinating. But yeah, Hearts Dundee Friday night on the telly. I'm looking forward to that. Do we think Hearts are going to steamroll the league?
Not necessarily, judging off of the way that they've started, you know. Not necessarily, as you said, there's some good teams. You look at Dunfermline's result last night and stuff like that. But if you then go back to the squad, the amount of wages they're getting, they should. But we were saying that last season. We were saying that last season. This squad, this money, this money. They can't go down. They're going to pick it up and this and stuff. And it never happened. The only good positive thing I seen last night, Cochrane played for them last night. He's a player that he was at Dunfermline on loan as well,
I mean, he was sitting playing against Celtic for Hearts, and then he's just squad.
But the thing is, seeing the Championship though, it's different.
Ruthless.
You've got a lot more midfield twos in the Championship tend to just be absolutely amateurish, man. He struggled a little bit with just the physicality of it. Talented boy, by the way, absolutely really talented player, getting the ball at his feet. In amongst good players at Hearts who want to play the ball properly, he'll probably thrive.
The biggest difference between Hearts this season and last season, because that can happen.
A good manager,
Robbie Nelson. That's it. The man's done
it. Been there last season.
And done it with United.
Exactly.
He knows how to win that league.
If you want a more impressive CV for getting yourself back up to the
you're asking if they'll steamroll the league. I'll say this to my good pal Kieran. He put in the chat, Hearts will steamroll that league. He thinks, they'll trounce it. I said to him, I'm not so sure.
I can see it being about 10 points, but I don't think it'll be...
I think it'll be... But what did Dundee United win it by last season? It ended up about 15. It started to dwindle down.
14
I don't think it'll be as impressive as Dundee United's.
Dundee United fell off a cliff.
They did, but they'd already kind of won it. It was that kind of thing.
When I look about the Championship, I think Dunfermline, Inverness and Dundee can all be up there challenging him.
And even here. That's why I'm highlighting these fixtures, because Hearts, Dundee, Dunfermline, Inverness.
The other 4 title challenges, yep.
Not even just the.
There's no going to be a step.
I think that's top 4.
Listen, mate, look my eyes.
Do you agree with that?
Look my eyes.
I think Ayr have got a chance, maybe, but I think that'll probably be.
Look my eyes, Dave.
Okay, mate.
There's not going to be a steamrolling this year, son.
Okay, mate.
Steamrolling.
We're only going to win it by 2 points.
Yeah, I say it. So, look, for me, Hearts won't steamroll the league. I think they will win the league, but I think it'll be by
a
very
Charlie Adam as well.
At Dundee and Orange.
Yeah. But here's the thing though, if you're midfield 3, it's Charlie Adam, Graham Dorrans and Paul McGowan. Who's doing the running?
Oh, absolutely nobody.
Nobody at all.
Nobody.
Graham Dorrans looked good last season.
Academia running.
He was nowhere near as good as people thought he was going to be. I think the same will happen to Charlie Adam.
Same happened when Dorrans came to Rangers. He's a brilliant player, obviously in the Prem and stuff like that. But
technically very good, but I think Charlie Adam
legs,
will do well.
legs are in it.
Especially the lower you go down these leagues, man. A lot of it comes down to physicality, like in terms of just being fit and fast and strong and all the rest of it.
Yeah. I've got one question for you, but Dave.
Okay, mate.
You're saying top 4 for you guys?
Yeah. I think we can win it.
Right. You can win it?
I think we can.
Is Nisbet got a wee brother that you can sign?
And
we
don't need him, mate. We're a better team.
You don't need him?
We'll be a stronger team this season.
That's madness, isn't it?
It's true,
it's right. He's not even saying it. He's not saying it.
If we didn't have him,
if you didn't have him, right? Okay.
I'm telling you,
because he's
relegated. We were pretty poor apart from him last season.
Yeah.
What?
This season now we've already seen it.
You get rid of most of your players, did you know?
We got rid of loads of them.
17 players released.
17 players released, man. But like, we've got goals now. We've seen already in the bit of a cup. We've got goals coming from throughout the team. Tom Thomas is a great player. Ryan Dow's a good player. Fraser Murray looks really good. Whittaker had that experience. McManus and O'Hara, despite the fact that neither of them will probably score 25-30 goals, I back them both to get 10, 13, 14, 15. I think they'll both.
You just want to go through the whole 2020 there, 10,
like,
13,
I just
14,
think as a
15.
squad we're so much stronger, and like we've had 3 clean sheets so far in the FA Cup. We've got Lewis Mayo with 21s. He's got 2 clean sheets with 21s is there. Highly rated Rangers played for his pre-season. He's got to come in as well. There's so much competition. I think as a squad we're stronger than we have been for years. I think we can win it. I think Hearts will. And I think we'll get playoffs.
Right. Very quickly then, because we're going to do this now for all the leagues. Predictions. Who's going up, who's going down in the Scottish Championship? I'll kick us off. Hearts will win the league.
Yeah.
Dunfermline will go up. I think they'll win in the playoffs. And going down this season, it's a tough one for who's going down. Going to the south. Going to the south. I've gone down.
I think that Dunfermline will finish third in the playoffs.
Right.
And Hearts will win the league, and I think Queens will do it. I'm not going to
So they're spotted.
They're just like they're at the stage now where they're gradually realising that Stephen Dobie's not going to carry them anymore. He's
Has he not got a statue yet? Has he got one?
They should do. Mind like a year and a half ago, we were talking about him like. He said he would only leave for Rangers, and people were like, oh, does he keep going like that? That was a genuine conversation.
That was because he was scoring that many goals.
God, man.
I mean,
I don't think it was genuinely on, but it was a genuine conversation.
Did they not play for Rangers, a boy?
I think so. Maybe. He's a big Rangers fan.
So, Dave, who do you think's going up? Who's going down?
I'm just going to agree with you guys. I do think
Do you
Hearts will
think
win
both
the
of them will
league.
go up then? Do you think Dunfermline will go up as well? Or do you think
I'm just going to back them.
See,
He's
fair.
convinced me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I'll go with him. And
But this is the
Inverness
thing,
and stuff were decent last season.
We've got
Seen
Inverness
them
on
as well.
Saturday, and as confident as I am, I can. The most unfair thing in the world get beaten Saturday. It just would, and it would like.
Just bring your energy levels
It
down.
would,
aye.
Right down to the
totally
floor.
But I do trust that our defence this season's so strong, which I think will be a big factor. Whitaker's just going to boss it in there, man.
Nice.
I want to do play.
Right, League 1, League 2, we're going to just go through our predictions for them and we'll talk very briefly. League 1, it's going to be a 2-horse race in there, and it's going to be Falkirk, Partick Thistle. It's going to be those two sides to get promotion.
I think they'll, from what I've seen of them in Betfred Cup so far though, I think everyone expected both of them to piss that league, and I don't think they will.
Have Cove got an outside chance of getting another? They're on a 5-year plan.
Falkirk and Thistle, I think
Not
one of them will
money.
go up. I don't think they'll both go up.
You think they'll both go
I
up?
don't think they'll
Oh, you
both
don't think both will go
I
up?
think, as much as it pains me to say it, I think Falkirk will win the league. I think Thistle will start it again.
Really?
Yeah.
Nah, I disagree. Thistle are going up.
Nah, I'm not sure.
Thistle's recruited decent. They've done well.
They recruited decent last summer.
That's true. That is true. Last year, look, even in January, they brought in Leo Connor, they brought in Dan McKinnon, they brought in. Who else was it they brought in?
Did
as
no
well?
boy bring in the boy that played with Rangers as well?
Did they not bring in Leo? Did Leo not go to Partick?
He did,
Aye, Partick. Some transfer
We
window.
all said if they
couldn't
can
do
get a
it.
run together, they'll push the playoffs. And they start being just awful.
Aye, so look, yes, that can happen again, but come on, Partick are going up for me.
I think if you get to the position where Falkirk or Thistle have to play, say, an Alloa in the playoff, that's like an Alloa, like I tell you.
What about Si Ferry? Could he win the league?
No, he's going down. So.
The NPR he'd have gone down?
Down.
Oh, well.
Look at that league, and I just think that, like I said, Clyde, Airdrie, and that, you know, even East Fife have all got decent squads, they can mount playoff challenges. And that's the
The
thing.
fair to them though, they did just do Dundee United.
They did, I know,
And they beat Brecon
I'm
last
saying it,
night
I'm
3-1.
saying it, I'm
They
saying
won
it,
it
I'm
last year,
saying
though.
I'm saying Airdrie to go down.
No, Airdrie are too good to go down, man.
I said
They're
Airdrie
too
won
good to go down. But these 10-team leagues are mad like that.
Clip
because
that. When it comes to the end of the season.
Airdrie finished top 4, they're both finished third, mate.
That's what I was thinking. Is Airdrie get an outside chance here?
Yeah, man, absolutely. They've got decent players.
Because
man.
they were right in amongst it with Falkirk last
I've got
season.
Yeah, they were, right?
Insides.
You've got insides?
Insides, mate.
League 2, Queen's Park are going to piss that league in League 2.
Oh, aye.
I've seen that business this summer.
Mate,
Get it good though, mate.
They've done the
Sold
Cove last
Hamden, get
season.
Willie Hockey in there.
Simon Money, man.
It's Willie Hockey. It's Willie Hockey, like,
He's involved.
involved in it, aye.
Simon Money could be playing top level, top end championship, bottom level SPL for me.
I didn't know Willie Hockey was involved. That's quite a bit of money behind him there. He's
Have you seen their away kit?
I've shook
Have
his
you seen their
horn.
away kit?
Oh,
No.
have you not seen
That's
it?
the weekend,
No.
man.
I've shook his horn, Willie Hockey.
Have you?
Aye, so like we
Drive past his house
so
like every day.
Every year we have like a reward. Well, I don't go to school anywhere, obviously, but secondary school we had a reward night. Like, so they get a new guest every year to like give the awards. So it was like Tam for still game one year because he went to our school, and then it was Willie Hockey the year I got an award. I'm shaking his horn like that. Oh, that's special, really, is it?
Mate, it's minted if you like research
aye,
his story.
aye. He's in old refrigerating. He was in.
That's the most fitting top for him, isn't it?
For Simon Murray.
For Simon Murray.
As man.
Takes it the red from his head.
That is
I
mental.
don't know, like, look, see for me, I know I'm saying Airdrie going down and you're like, ah, it's bull. I'm telling you, look, every year there's always a big team somewhere that collapses. Not a big team, Airdrie are not a big team, right, but there's a team that's always meant to be up there that collapse, and I've been doing my scouting.
That's
Good,
right.
Airdrie.
What makes you think? Tell me, go. How about you go in depth in your scouting here?
Not
Go
enough
on.
time, mate.
No,
Not
tell
enough
me.
time.
Tell me who Airdrie's best player is. That's not a Scooby-Doo, by the way. And he's backtracking because I'm so confident they're going to stay up.
Nah, I'm telling you, I'm sticking to it.
That's where the
Like, all
process starts
season.
and like you get
All
educated in the lower
season.
leagues again.
All
That's what you
season.
had last year. Your education in the lower leagues will grow. So.
All season
Talking
long.
to the expert here, isn't it?
I'll say that.
Mate, I'm telling, look, I'm being serious. Like, I'm not just saying this, that. There's always a team across the 3 leagues who are meant to be up there, and they go down.
You just plucked one out of a hat though and just go.
They were good last season.
They were good because we were talking about them being up there. Could they go in and win?
So what is the capitulation then that's happened for them to go down?
This break, mate.
Jim Trainer said he's an Airdrie fan again. That means I'll capitulate.
Right, League 2. Who's going up?
Queen's Park, mate.
Oh, and who's going down?
Nobody. Oh, actually.
What do you mean, nobody?
Well,
It's a playoff, innit?
Who's gone up? That's the question.
Kelty.
You think Kelty?
The lower league's
Who was
tragic,
Kelty supposed to
man,
be playing? Was it Borough Rangers?
Kelty against Brora, yes.
Aye.
The lower league is going to be fascinating this year.
Uh-huh.
See, look at like the way EK have recruited.
Oh mate,
Like,
I know.
Paul Payton,
Get Ian
Chris
Durant in
Erskine.
there, I know, I'm sure.
Yeah, man. And like BSC have signed like Andy Geiger from Ayr. They've signed like a few players. It's going to be fascinating. And I still think Kelty Hearts will do it because they're a very good side. But I mean, there's some really good players down there. Guys that could be playing in the championship. I mean, guys like Callum Higginbottom's gone to Kelty. He's playing the championship still. So that'll be fascinating. I take it back. Yeah, Kelty are going to go up. They're
Yeah.
going to beat the Highland League team and go up.
I agree.
And I'd like to see that progression because I think they've got.
It will be challenging. They have got the money and stuff. They should probably they canter the Lowland League. I mean, in the Lowland League they were battering teams 9-0 and all that.
Yeah.
And then they went and played Dalton Lake, Talbot, and get
Like
beat
Nathan
3-0.
Austin up front, man. I mean, he's played in the championship so often. Volker, Companies, and that. Like, these guys are too good for the Lowland League, and I think it'll prove the case. But that's that.
How mental is that though? That Auchinleck battered Kelty.
Auchinleck-
Kelty were battering teams like 9-0
Yeah.
in the Lowland, and then Auchinleck
junior
battered
team,
them.
Auckland are not playing this year. I've heard that.
Are the juniors cancelled or something?
I don't think it's cancelled, but I think some of the teams have just said we're not playing.
Really?
It's just not viable.
Jeez, oh.
Right.
It's just wild.
To end off, before we close up the show, I feel like we've done this really well recently. There's been a few quizzes we've
I
done.
knew he was preparing something.
You
Yeah.
knew I was, didn't you? So
Like a wee
you two
quiz.
are joining up my wee team here.
What,
I'm
against
going to let
you?
you maybe just try to answer the
We
questions.
don't go against each other, no?
Alright, okay, quickest to answer gets the point.
I'm going to get
Against each other.
battered here, mate.
It is an old firm quiz.
Oh, I mean, no chance.
You set me up
quiz,
horribly
right.
here to get beat.
Right, are you ready? I'm Chris Tarrant here.
Okay.
Right.
You look like him.
Right, well, there.
But,
What?
nice fella.
You look a bit older.
Look a bit more like Alan Carr than fucking Chris Tarrant. Anyway, right, so, he's ready. I think there's about 10 questions. You calm down. Are you ready to go? He's
Yes,
ready,
mate,
right?
happy.
First one to answer. Who is the only player to score Old Firm goals for all of Celtic, Rangers?
Kenny Miller.
That's cheating. That was my answer.
Yeah, it's Kenny Miller.
That's cheating. Fucking finish your question, mate.
First to answer.
Mate, I was going to say, I had Kenny Miller about 25 seconds ago. He was like this.
What was the end? What was the end?
Wait, was he going to end me?
Because the question says, and I wasn't want to offend anybody. 'Cause it
I
says,
knew it was in
and the,
Rangers.
newly formed Rangers post administration.
cool.
That's what the question
very
says.
good.
It wasn't me. It's not my part. It's the quiz site. It's not even a Celtic site. It's just a normal quiz.
Right.
Right, so getting 1 point to David. Sorry, Dave.
Okay,
Which Old Firm club boasts the most Scottish League victories against the other?
Celtic.
Rangers.
Is it?
Aye, Rangers have more
team,
wins. Aye.
Celtic have got way more points than that because we did a wee quiz on that in
Did you?
my podcast, and Celtic got about 8,000 more points in the top league than Rangers. That is mental.
That's probably not a cheeky way either, but it probably doesn't help that he's won in the league for what 4 or 5
Yeah,
years.
but
No 8,000
Aye, I know, but aye, fair enough.
Christ.
Celtic boosted the biggest official Old Firm derby win, which came in 1957. Scottish.
One.
For God's sake, man.
Jesus
He's
Christ.
flying
Big
here.
Finish questions. What I'm
Right.
saying.
Well, I thought. I mean,
Getting
what's the
fried
point
here,
waiting
man.
for?
Right, which Old Firm team has the most Scottish top flight titles?
Rangers.
They've got that first. He was there first.
Give me an eye.
3-1. You were definitely there first as well. Which Old Firm club boasts the most victories against the other in all competitions?
Celtic.
Rangers.
It's Rangers.
For fuck's sake, I just jumped in.
Your team, man.
I was just jumping in because I thought you said the Rangers.
Right,
It was
it's
Rangers
4-1.
previously.
It's 4-1, but now we're on to personnel questions, so this is where it gets a bit
I'm
more
getting
tricky.
beat, mate.
So, which of the following has not made senior appearances for both Celtic and Rangers? You've got 4 options. Kenny Miller, Mo Johnson, Stephen Presley or Craig Beattie.
Craig Beattie.
Craig Beattie's correct.
I fucking
Steve
forgot the
Presley
question,
for
mate.
Rangers.
My head's went. I needed a fucking bowl of cereal or something.
When did Stephen Presley play for Rangers?
I think youth.
Youth, aye.
Aye,
You
youth.
said senior appearances.
He had a
which
professional
player has not
contract,
made
I
this? Which player
Has
has?
not made a senior.
Oh no, I
appearance.
think he might have played like a game for
Maybe
Rangers.
Elvis, man.
Let's see, still rolling, right? Okay. Which legendary Premier League goalkeeper was an unused substitute for Celtic in a 4-2 loss to Rangers back in 1994, but never played a game for Celtic?
I forget the question, mate.
Goalkeeper, legendary Premier League keeper, played for Celtic, unused
On the
sub
bench.
against Rangers in 1994, never
Not
played
on
for Celtic.
Not that Scooby Doo.
This is one of these ones Celtic fans love to say, what?
The Celtic dads will be loving this because it's in the 90s.
Oh, aye, keep going.
I don't like fast quizzes, mate. I need to think.
94. Who was the manager?
94,
then?
mate, 94. Who was the manager? Oh, at the time it must have been like, oh, jeez, oh.
I like to look at my
Barnes with us.
question
Wasn't
about
Barnes,
30
was it?
seconds.
Well, Barnes was the 90,
Was he-
what, 99, 99, aye.
I don't know,
Yeah.
pass.
He's both don't get it. This is a
Celtic fans. We love it.
Celtic fans absolutely love this.
You don't have it like we did in the 90s.
See when he used to play in the Premier League, my dad played for Australia. Never actually played for us. Didn't play a fucking game.
So who did he play for in the Premier League?
Big Newcastle. But you're none of you getting that. Big Newcastle man, went to Man City. One of the best keepers I've seen in my life, easily. One of the greatest keepers I've ever seen.
You see the question again?
Which Premier
Honestly,
League goalkeeper, legendary Premier League goalkeeper, was unused as a substitute for Celtic in a 4-2 win against Rangers in 1994, went on to never play for Celtic.
So, did he play for Newcastle before or after?
After Celtic, before City. Massive. None of these are getting it now, he's out of time. Shay Given, man.
I was just about to say
Shay Given.
Wow.
Shay Given's the answer.
I'll back yourself, man.
Which Old Firm club boasts the most Scottish Cup victories against the other?
Celtic.
Aye. Right. I think that, well, you could pull it back if you get all the next
See with
ones.
them questions, it's one or the other. See which one.
That's what I tried twice and fucked it.
They did do it well. Right, who was
Rangers!
the last Rangers player to score an Old Firm hat-trick?
Yelovich?
Nope.
No.
Oh.
Eh.
Can you give us the year?
Nah. It's not here.
Is it, well, you'll know
But
the
that's my McCoy's correct. It's McCoy's, he's on a comeback if he. So that's
Say come back, give it 2 points.
6-2. And there's 5 questions left. Oh, it could be. Which Celtic player scored the fastest Old Firm goal in just 19 seconds in 2002?
Larson.
No.
Hartson.
No.
Sutton.
You should have
Yeah,
said
last
6-3.
week. I should have just guessed,
It's
man.
6-3.
Fuck it.
6-3 with 4 questions to go. Who were winners of the first Old Firm derby way back in 1890?
Celtic.
Celtic's correct. It's 6-4. Back is on here. Oh man. Who's been sent off the most in Old Firm derbies 3 times in total? Part of Martin O'Neill's team.
Bo Valde.
No.
Lennon.
No.
Oh.
John Hart's a bit set off.
I think I know that guy's name. Is he a right back or something?
No.
No.
Nah.
Oh, I've no idea, man.
Mawalby.
Nah. It's not the Albi. It's not the Albi.
It wasn't like Paul
I
Lambert.
don't know the players.
Where did he play? Position?
No, you can't see that. You'll get that.
I'll give you one of his
Right,
nationality. I'll just try to give up the point and try and make it 6 each.
But if you give up the point here, that closes the gap. That means it's easier for me to win, you know what I'm saying?
No, I won't give up the point. Go for it.
Nationality.
Just that. You want the nationality or the answer?
No, the nationality.
Nationality.
English.
Thompson.
Aye, Alan Thompson.
Thompson.
6-5. It's 6-5.
Oh, had to warm up.
Man, this is it. Oh,
You see him, man.
mate, capitulation here. Oh, in the match dubbed the Shame Game in 1999, when Rangers won 3-0, how many players across both teams were sent off?
5.
4.
3.
3 is correct. One more question. Oh, he balled it. Oh, unreal.
That's 6-1.
Finally.
6-1, I was
Finally. Oh, right. Here we go. This is it. I'm nervous to read out the question. I've never heard of this before, by the way. The above match in 1994 on New Year's Day was also dubbed the Mars Bar game for what reason?
Somebody threw a Mars bat at a ref.
No.
A manager.
No. 4. You've got 4 options here, right?
Oh no.
3.
Is this the quickest one or did you both? Oh, I don't know.
That's whoever gets it.
Right.
So A, B, C or D.
Right.
A free deep fried Mars bar were handed out to the home fans. B, John Collins celebrated his goal by eating a Mars bar. C, Mars sponsored the match as a one-off. So it was like, Mars Super Sunday or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, they sponsored the game. Mm-hmm. And D, a fan threw a Mars bar at a board member's head.
B.
D.
What'd you say?
B.
You said D. Big Dave's won it.
Yes! Go on there!
Won it. B, what was B again? John Collins.
John Collins eating a Mars bar.
You know what,
As if John Collins would eat a Mars bar.
I know, aye.
That's bad.
That would help with a passing, moving and tempo.
I know.
Passing,
six-pack.
moving,
tempo.
tempo. Well, that does it well done. That was good.
You know what, as soon as I thought about that John Collins thing, I just thought about that. Remember that video where he was like chasing Lee Griffiths with a tea cake and Celtic training? Remember that?
Aye.
That's all I can think of.
I said Shay Given.
Shea Given with a goal, yeah, man. That was good, but that was good.
Alan Thompson.
Enjoyed that.
That was good.
As always, absolute pleasure to be joining these
If
guys.
Saturday's as fierce a contest as that was, then we're in for a treat.
Aye, I mean,
I'm
good.
terrible at fast questions. I'm fucking forgetting the questions.
Imagine it was a 7-6 on Saturday.
That'd be unlucky for you, isn't it?
Anyway, you know what to do. Go over to Div, subscribe to him. SharpDiv link will be in the description. Big Dave, nobody wants to see you anyway. And
He's a victor, isn't he?
I know, I champion, mate. These are on.
Oh, fuck off. So the business.
If you have enjoyed it, share, like and subscribe. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you all next time.